today is the day for editing, going over things, reading them, seeing if we like them, and just talking. So let's get to work, huh? Shall we? Can you guys hear the chair? Is that really loud? Here, let me. I want to hear. I want to hear if you guys can hear the chair. That chair. No, apparently you guys can't hear it. Apparently this mic is really good. Good on me for buying a good mic. It's the SM7B, in case you didn't know. Sure, it's a Shure mic. All right, let's get to it. Chapter 11, Get Strong. Fat people are disgusting. Leprechaun was at the door complaining to Mafia and I about his old celly. Leprechaun was at the door complaining to Mafia and I about his old celly. They smell and fart all the time. I mean, look at that fatso. Fatso was sitting at one of the tables, watching TV. His folds of fat draped over his body, making the entire metal seat disappear. I laughed. It looks like the pole is going up his ass. Damn it, it does, replied Leprechaun. Well, said Mafia, that's what 400... That's what 400 plus pounds looks like. Have you guys seen those porn videos where fat women eat a ton of food that guys buy them? The guys are called feeders. Ew, that's so gross. I couldn't imagine people being into such a kink. Into a kink like that. Fat people repulse me, Leprechaun chimed in. I don't understand why they always smell like that. Do they all forget to clean under their fat necks? Under the fat folds of their neck? Do they all forget to clean under the fat folds of their necks? It's probably genetic for him, Mafia said. His mom's probably fat too. I took my cue. Yeah, when she falls down, no one laughs, but the ground cracks up. I got a few chuckles before Mafia came back at me. You're one to talk? Pointing a thumb at me while speaking to the others. I saw this guy crush 2 Swiss rolls between 2 honey buns and eat the entire thing in one sitting. Leprechaun gave me a look of surprise. No way. I remained silent during their exchange, knowing there was no defense for the things I'd done. I swear to God, that's like 2,000 calories. Ate it all in under 2 minutes. No wonder he farts all the time. Oh, dude, he's an undercover fat kid. He puts peanut butter on Snickers, melts Hershey chocolate bars to spread on top of honey buns and popcorn. I've even seen him. He melts Hershey's chocolate bars to spread on top of honey buns and popcorn. I've even seen him crush up Swiss rolls and mix them into his popcorn. He eats at least a bag a day. No wonder you're getting fat. All the extra dessert he has coming. No wonder you're getting fat, 400. No wonder you're getting fat, 400. All the extra desserts he has coming under our door doesn't help either. I felt the need to defend myself now. It's not my fault I'm a pinochle god. Leprechaun gave a laugh. It's a wonder you're not 300 pounds. He's on his way, Mafia threw in. With no good responses available to me, I replied lamely, you guys are just jealous of my Greek god-like bod and my chiseled chin. I struck my practiced head angled upwards, hands on hips, chiseled chin out pose. Oh, the laughter I heard. Leprechaun was the first to recover. You really think you're God's gift to humanity, don't you? You're completely oblivious to how you really look, or that you have a big fat. You're completely oblivious to how you really look, comma, or that you have a fat double chin right now. Look in the mirror. Later that night, as my cellie slumbered, I stood in front of the mirror assessing myself. Moving my chin every which way, I didn't like what I saw. I had a fat neck. I had a double chin. I had a fat face. I removed my XL shirt that was sitting a bit tight to see my fat fold hanging over my waistline. At least it was just one fat fold. I jiggled my belly when I stopped. I jiggled my belly, and when I stopped moving, I jiggled my belly, and when I stopped moving, my tummy didn't. I looked myself up and down, flexed, and fondled my boobs. I turned to my half-asleep cellmate as he stirred. "Hey, Mafia?" Was the only drowsy sound I got back. "Mafia. Harumph. Am I fat?" "Trevor, we were teasing you. You don't need to be so self-conscious. You aren't fat." I turned back to the mirror, feeling a bit better before Mafia finished his thoughts, adding, "You're pleasantly plump." Well, that was that. It was time to get back in shape. That night, I laid on my bunk, planning my return to Greek god status, and wondering how I'd gotten so far from it. I knew how it had gotten this bad. I had done almost no physical activity for over half a year. Sure, I did a few push-ups at the beginning, a few light workouts here and there, but not consistently. We had no exercise equipment, no weights, not even a pull-up bar. Before I knew it, months had passed. But it was easy to make excuses and tell yourself you didn't have anyone to impress. Well, I did have someone to impress, myself, and all the other inmates. COs, family, and friends I saw on video visits. Plus, I'd have to eventually stand before a jury if that jury was sexually attracted to me. Then there's no way I'd be found guilty. It was clear that I had to lose the fat. How do you lose fat? You burn it off. That meant cardio. The problem was how to get it. We didn't have any running space. Running in circles in the 20 by 15-foot concrete slab they called a rec yard proved to be ineffective and dizzying. Besides, I had other things to do with my few hours out. I knew a few inmates who walked miles in their cells for exercise. From the bunk to the door was about 7 feet of walking room, meaning you only had to pace back and forth 754 times plus 2 feet to have walked a mile. While great to get up, move the joints, and get the blood pumping, pacing was hardly the cardio I needed to burn my jelly rolls. Walking a mile only burns about 100 calories. When you consider the diet we were fed was 260 calories a day before commissary, walking a mile did little to curb the pod's growing cellulite. I tried running to the door and backpedaling to the bunk. 7 feet was an annoyingly small space for this. I put together workouts where I'd do circuits of burpees, jumping jacks, running in place. It kind of worked. At least I was sweating. When I discovered the cardio exercise that changed my detained life, jump rope. Obviously, I didn't have a real jump rope. Half the incarcerated population might give hanging a try if they got their hands on one. So I'd just pretend. I'd grab my imaginary jump rope, swing my arms, and jump. After about 10 minutes, I was sweating, fogging up the cell, and feeling great. My calves burned. I was gasping for my old friend oxygen and feeling like I'd run a mile. It was the perfect exercise, easy to do, could be done standing in one spot, good for long periods. Good for long periods, and could be sped up or slowed down depending on the need. My 10 minutes turned into 15, 20, and I started to feel better about myself again. I had more energy, was awake and alert. I had more energy, was awake and alert. I had more energy, was awake and alert. My days of reading and writing got a lot more productive, although it's no wonder I got so sluggish. Stuck in a box with nothing to do but read or sleep on your bunk for 22 hours a day would make anyone sloth-like. I started working out, jumping rope like there was no tomorrow, every day consistently. I started working out, jumping rope like there was no tomorrow. I jumped every day consistently. I always planned to exercise an hour before my timeout. That way, I didn't stink up the house too bad before my cellie could escape. It also let me jump right in the shower and leave the cell door open to air out the stench of my masculine musk. It also let me jump right in the shower and leave the cell door open to air out the stench of my masculine musk. The problem was I wasn't losing weight the way I should have been. Maybe a little bit in the face, but my gut still traveled before my nose. After a month of working out, I was concerned with my lack of progress. Then I took a look at other guys who exercised in the pod. We had fat asses who said they worked out, but we all knew they didn't. Scrawny guys who boasted their push-up numbers, and men who worked out pretty consistently. The problem was, even the men who exercised all the time were muscled fat. And the scrawny guys had beer bellies without any of the fun alcoholic hoorah. For the answers to why, I only had to look towards our diet. The problem was clear. The meals were all carbs. Every day we ate biscuits, rolls, and cakes or cookies. Even the main dishes were all pastas, noodles, or potatoes. No wonder everyone got fat. Carbs turned into sugar in our body, and with no way to quickly metabolize it, the sugar is stored as fat. Boy, did people get fat over the months. I decided I wasn't going to be a fat lard. I set myself to getting healthy. I slowly started lowering my carb and calorie intake, trading away all the breads and desserts. It worked, but becoming Jewish really upped my fat loss. Unlike the normal diet, kosher meals had no variety. Every breakfast was 2 hard-boiled eggs, 2 slices of bread, oatmeal, and an apple. Dinner was beans, rice, 2 slices of bread, and an apple. Lunch was the only thing that ever changed, rotating between 2 hard-boiled eggs, a fish patty, or 6 slices of plastic-wrapped cheese. These main dishes were alongside lunches, 2 slices of bread, rice, and yet another apple. This is where the weight loss started, and once I started seeing results, I got addicted. To speed it up, I traded away my bread and rice, cutting out the carbs. Next was my oatmeal. That was a big ticket item for some inmates. Next was my oatmeal. Next was my oatmeal, which was easy, which was an easy trade. Which was easy to trade away. Some inmates considered oatmeal packets big ticket items. Lastly, I stopped stuffing my face with all the sugary junk off commissary. Results were showing, but if I wanted to get cut, I had to up my metabolism. Step 1 of getting my metabolism going was easy. Drink more water. For optimum hydration, a person should drink half their body's weight in ounces of aqua. To flush out my toxins, get my skin supple, and slim down with bowel movements, I began drinking 2 to 3 gallons a day. I was pissing like crazy, but I had nothing better to do, and the toilet was right next to the sink. Let's add a comma. Comma. Comma, comma, comma. Comma, 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 camellia. You come and go. You come and go. Whoa. Comma, 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 chameleon. You come and go. You come and go. Whoa. Don't I just have a lovely singing voice? It makes you want to go to a different club. Ha ha ha. And the toilet was right next to the desk. Super convenient. Along with being 0 calories, water also kept me full, helping me curve my head to my need to snack. Along with being 0 calories, water was also kept me full, helping me curb my need to snack. But of course, the best thing about water is its healing properties. Water cures everything, even homosexuality. I knew sleep was important for metabolism, along with its added benefits of increasing testosterone and human growth hormones. But I knew sleep was important for metabolism, along with its added benefits of increasing testosterone and human growth hormones. But I already got 8 to 10 hours of sleep a day. Nothing better to do. So I was good there. My last step towards my acquisition of super metabolism was cardio. In addition to the 15 to 20 minutes of cardio a day, I did 2 minutes of cardio every hour for 8 to 10 hours a day. Getting my heart rate beating and blood flowing every hour went a long way towards coming out of max with a beach bod. Last thing I needed to get my sexy self in shape was patience. The last thing I needed to get my sexy self in shape was patience, persistence, and consistency. Once I started, I didn't stop. I didn't have any breaks or cheat days. I just kept at it for months, slowly but surely getting my healthy look. Goodbye, jail bod. Inmates would ask me what I'd been doing and jump on the bandwagon. Then, after a couple weeks, they'd get off kosher and slack on their workouts. Too many people want the 30-day six-pack secret, but there's no such thing. Only hard work over a long period of time will transform you into the beast you were born to be. The jailbirds. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm so tired today. Let's wake up. Yep, that's better. Just gotta rub the eyes a little bit. Rubbing the eyes. Rubbing the eyes. Ha ha ho. The jailbirds who were able to stay consistent got on a regular workout and eating schedule, talked about it, and asked questions of the other guys who worked out. Most of these guys also had a cellie who worked out with them, or at least had a cellmate to remind or nag them into work. To remind or nag them into work. Yeah, see, I don't like the way that sounds. Most of these guys also had a cellie who worked out with them, or at least had a cellmate to remind or nag them. To remind or nag them into workout. Or at least that cellmate to remind or nag them into working out. Most of these guys also had a cellie who worked out with them, or at least had a cellmate to remind or nag them into working out. Come on, move that jelly roll, Mafia yelled from his bottom bunk. Just taking a little breather. I panted from my top bunk. There we go. This is going to look so much better with some, oh my gosh, author ellipses. Author ellipses. Let's do some author dashes. Dashes. I panted from my top bunk. My hands rested on my chest, feeling my heart thumping as it tried to break through my sternum. What you're doing is being a lazy sack of lard. I turned, looking down at my cellie laying on his bunk. Says the man with half a honey bun resting on his chest. Hey, you're the one who wants to get healthy all of a sudden. I'm just here to remind you you ought to be exercising, not growing new fat rolls laying on your fat ass. He was a great workout partner. Day after day, he'd stuff his face with candy bars while reminding me to pitter-patter, let's get at her, which is exactly what I needed. Pitter-patter, let's get at her. Pitter-patter, get at her. Shorter breaks meant shorter workouts, meaning I could get more done with my day. His motivation and knowing he knew that I was supposed to be doing, he knew what I was supposed to be doing, kept me going. This was especially helpful when I came to my hated core workouts. Laying atop my bunk, I closed my eyes and sucked in air before undertaking the dreaded bicycle kicks. I did my best to breathe through my screaming abs and ignore the diarrhea that was sure to follow. I'd be glad I did. After several months of working the top and bottom of my stomach with bicycle kicks and reverse crunches, I'd feel the six-pack starting to bulge. It was a look I was excited to show off. What the hell are you doing? Mafia blurted. I jumped, startled. I stammered, I thought you were asleep. Well, I'm not anymore. Put this. This is a new scene. That's what this is. What the hell are you doing? Mafia blurted. I jumped. Startled, I stammered. I thought you were asleep. Well, I'm not anymore. Embarrassed, my cheeks colored. You weren't supposed to see this. Well, I'm seeing it. With a sigh, he rolled over. Decent size for someone your height. Yep, He'd caught me. Mafia caught me in the middle of the night, standing shirtless in our cell, flexing in the mirror. I liked what I was seeing. Toned, lean, with a line or two visible across my stomach. Clearly, my new diet, cardio, and exercises were paying off. The disappointment was in the actual size of the muscles. I could get toned, but couldn't build any real muscle mass. For the millionth time, I wished we had weights or even just a pull-up bar. After a year of close custody, my biceps felt particularly deflated. I tried getting a bunch of heavy books and Bibles, filling my laundry bag and curling them. That turned out to be a great way of ripping apart my laundry bag. Next, I tied my sheets around my mattress. Standing on the stool, I slowly curled my mattress one arm at a time. After 100 curls, I was losing patience. The mattress weighed close to 15 pounds. That wasn't going to cut it. I knew that to increase my muscle mass, I needed high tension, low rep. 15 pounds wasn't nearly enough, even curling as slow as possible. In the search for high muscle strain, the greatest Sully of all time was sitting on the ground, holding a towel tight between his hands. I struggled to curl the towel 2, 3, 4 times. Ah, screamed Mafia. I need a break. A break? I'm the one doing the curling. Hey, this is a strain for my arms, too. I gave a loud sigh. Clearly, partner exercises weren't going to be effective. To seek out answers to my muscle mass quest, I turned to books. I started asking around and hoarding all the exercise books I could get my hands on. I tried out every calisthenic and body weight exercise program I could find. The problem was, all the programs used a pull-up bar. It was also clear from the kinesiology books that to build muscle mass, I had to change the way I exercised. Everybody who worked out in Max boasted that push-up numbers. I did 100 push-ups. 100, 300, 500, 1,000 push-ups. Yes, the 90-pound string bean can do hundreds of push-ups with his ass in the air, going fast, with half an hour to rest between sets. Not gonna lie, bursting a push-up God's bubble made me smile. Their little arms struggled as I taught them how to really build mass with slow decline push-ups. 3 sets with only a minute rest with only a minute rest allowed between each set. Diamond decline, wide decline, and half declines were the push-ups to do. For legs, the exercises were one-legged calf raises and one-legged squats done off the stool. The desire to exercise and get bigger was infectious. Soon, even my silly Mafia was working out. I was putting together different exercise routines for different bodies, and it was working. People were getting bigger and looking good. We had our own little exercise community. The only problem was there were still muscles being ignored. When I couldn't find any books with the answers, I turned to my loving family. When you're locked up, a support system on the outside can make life a lot better. After my inquiry, my family started sending in books. On dynamic strength, isotonics, and the late bodybuilder Charles Atlas. With hammer curls, across the body rows, and lateral presses, we didn't need weights to bulk up. As weeks turned into months, my arms started to pop. I was having fun combining calisthenics and isotonic exercises into my own jailhouse, no equipment needed workout program. I'd give it to the guys and see what they thought. Mafia and I, we were killing our workouts every day. What's wrong with your shoes? I looked up to see Deputy McGruff staring down at me. I followed his gaze down to my orange plastic flip-flops before responding. Looks like the lip's a bit torn. Why are you destroying our property, tearing up our shit? I tried my best to keep the, oh my god, are you kidding me? Sass out of my voice. I'm not tearing up anything. I've had the same flip-flops since last December. I've been working out a lot lately, and they're just getting worn out. Yeah, right. Working out. Bullshit. If I see the next pair torn up, you're going to be in serious trouble. I remained silent as I was handed my fresh kicks. Mafia would need to get his sandals replaced a few months later, and he'd be given no grief about it. Some COs were simply dicks to be dicks. Whenever I forgot this fact, I'd shortly be reminded of it. Replacing my face in the mirror with McGruff's, I went hard at shadowboxing. I don't consider myself a violent person, but I could understand why inmates target guards and riot. Inmates are already under enough psychological stress and anxiety. Deputies do not seem to understand how easily incarcerated folks can be pushed over the edge. Violence may not be the right solution, but it is an easy and readily available one. Turning my pent-up frustration into energy for workouts, I was determined to bulk up, get muscle, and grow. Staying determined and motivated turned out to be pretty easy in Max, where I had few distractions. Looking at and noticing the subtle change in my body from week to week was the best motivation for myself. Are you going to put a shirt on? I turned towards Mafia. Don't hate. The amount you stare at yourself, I'm seriously beginning to question your sexuality. Oh, come on. I'm sure there are lots of guys who would love to suck their own dick. Nope, just you. I gave Mafia my Ken doll smile. You're just jealous. My teeth are normal and don't look like I floss with shoelaces. Mafia gave a sigh. How I miss shoelaces. I turned back to the room with a grunt. It's true. I missed shoelaces too. It's amazing what you miss when it's all taken away from you. I poured myself a glass of water as Leprechaun came to the window. Oh, hey, LeBron. Oh, hey, LeBron. Leprechaun shouted. Come see Trevor drink water. It's amazing. Shut up, I said as LeBron came to the window. Mafia gave a smile as he got up from his bunk. Do it. We all want to watch. Whatever. And with that, I downed a cup. Oh my god, said LeBron. I told you, replied Leprechaun. I don't understand, said Mafia. It's just water. Why does your aftertaste face look like you're in pain? I'm just not a big fan of plain water, I explained. It's just so bland. But I'm drinking a lot of it to be healthier. Not used to bland water, Leprechaun said in his voice dripping with mockery. Oh, you poor privileged little Jewish boy. I gave a laugh. Yep, privileged. Another way of saying I'm better than you. Remember that next time you have to clean up my shower jellies, you poor house mouse. Trash cleaning up trash. The conversational banter continued much in the normal way, everyone making jokes at another's expense. We all took the jokes in good humor and moved on. Somehow we got on the topic of Panda's sleeping habits. He sleeps with his head up, hovering over the pillow, and his legs crossed like a monk, said LeBron. He says he's so flexible from years of wrestling. I swear, he's like a kung fu panda. Feet behind his head and everything. I had to see what they were describing for myself. It did not disappoint. I kind of get jealous of this flexibility. That night, I tried to touch my toes. That was a humbling experience. Clearly, I hadn't spent much of my time in closed custody stretching. That led me to start stretching regularly and read several books on Tai Chi. Tai Chi turned out to be a great slow martial art. I could practice in a small space in my cell. Soon, my flexibility and balance were better than ever. I found that adding different workout routines like Tai Chi exercises breaks up the monotony and keep me interested in my physical activity. In the physical activities. Anything to keep from getting bored. It's like they say, variety is the spice of life. Did you seriously order 30 tubes of peanut butter? Mafia asked me right after our commissary delivery. Well, yeah. Mafia stared blankly at me until I continued. You see, to grow the most muscle mass, a person should eat between 5.5 or 0.8 grams of protein for every pound they weigh. Okay. Which means I needed between 90 and 144 grams of protein daily. Uh-huh. But I'm only gaining about 62 grams on fish patty days, only 36 on egg sandwich days, and even worse, 24 grams on cheese sandwich days. Oh no, Mafia said with feigned concern. I know. Not concern. With feigned dismay. Dismay is a far better word. With feigned dismay. Feigned dismay. I know, I continued in my upbeat tone, and the Nutri-Grain protein bars they sell is $2, and you only get 10 grams of protein. Huh. Whereas the cheese squeeze peanut butter, you get 1.1 ounces of peanut butter for 80 cents. 1.1 ounces is just shy of 2 tablespoons, meaning it's around 7 grams of protein per squeeze peanut butter. Clearly, peanut butter is the best bang for your buck to get the protein needed for my muscle growth. Is the best bang for my buck to get the protein needed for my muscle growth. So, Mafia began, you're gonna wolf down 2 or 3 of these a day before or after the isotonic exercises. Two or three of these a day before and after your isotonic exercises. Pretty much, best way to bulk up like I want. Peanut butter meets high strain, low rep. Peanut butter, yes. Yes, Becca. Peanut butter is the best. By far the best. I'm so glad you like it. Isn't it great? What I really enjoy, oh my gosh, I used to do peanut butter and banana sandwiches with some honey, or peanut butter and sweet pickle sandwiches. Peanut butter and pickle is a good combo. Or I used to just take pickles and I would dip them in the peanut butter. So good. So delicious. Pretty much, best way to bulk up like I want. Peanut butter meets high strain, low rep. You don't do anything small, do you, Trevor? He said without a question mark as he rolled over to go back to sleep. I gave a shrug before going to sleep myself. I guess I don't feel the need to half-ass my life and my time in Max, especially when it came to getting strong. Why let no weights or protein shakes get in my way of getting big? Why let no computer or typewriter stand in my way of writing? Time in Max didn't have to be wasted time. Being locked up is what you make of it. It is amazing. Yeah, I mean, you should try it. If you like pickles. Do you like pickles? Do you like peanut butter? You know, together they are what they are. Was I doing this in the small? I was. Okay, well, don't worry. This one's 150 magnification, so hopefully you guys can see it okay. See it okay? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am Lord. If you don't watch South Park, you probably don't get that reference. Chapter 12, Prison or Freedom. You'll get popped in the face once or twice to loosen you up, make you more cooperative, Leprechaun said as he explained how several prison inmates might fall in love with a good-looking new inmate. Or you'll get one good knockout hit in the back of the head when you aren't expecting it. wake up with some guy's member up your ass. You'll get an erection, but don't worry. It's just a natural physical reaction to something moving in and out of your sphincter. It doesn't mean you're gay. Everyone laughed and then told a few stories to confirm that yes, it is a natural physical reaction. I knew they were all joking. Rape in prison didn't really happen now that there were so many open homosexuals with condoms ready to go. If rape did take place, it was about the power and control high. It was about sending a message. We only had a few rape claims in county. One was against a tranny, and we were pretty sure it happened. The second rape allegation they took seriously was a guy who claimed his cellie took his ass. They searched and found semen. However, the allegations only came after he was caught stealing his commissary. Due to size and the fact everyone assumed the cellies enjoyed each other, called them fags without much argument, and witnessed them pounding away in their cell one day, we were pretty sure everything was consensual. In this day and age, he should have gotten a signed romantic contract, although, under PREA laws, no inmates may have sexual relations, consensual or otherwise, with another inmate. Not something I'd ever have to worry about. Porn in my hand was more than enough for me. The topic of what prison was like had been coming up a lot lately because everyone was taking deals. Jackson, Jackson's cellie, Gay J, Fat Ass, B, Killer, Andy, Pig, Panda, Leprechaun, even Gaucho all ended up taking deals. You can't blame them for taking deals, though. The way the American justice system is set up, depending on how difficult your case will be to prosecute, you'll be offered a deal to plead guilty. This saves the prosecutor's office and the courts money and guarantees a guilty verdict. In their minds, a deal was a guarantee that justice would be served. Why trust that a jury of normal everyday citizens are smart enough to make the right verdict when the prosecutor could trade a few years of prison time for a happy ending that was certain? Just want to look real quick. Tools on the Get Strong word count. 4,001. Well, it's 4,000 something. As a man trying to prove his innocence, a deal can be quite tempting, regardless of guilt. Even with a solid defense, there's no guarantee that the jury won't go off script and do their own thing. There's no telling what might happen. There's no predicting what might happen when those doors close and jury deliberation starts. Most of the guys in Max are looking at 15 to 30 years if found guilty. Several are facing life. You take a guy facing 15, then offer him 3.5 if he pleads out. That's tempting for anyone, especially when you consider that if the plea agreement lowers the crime enough, he'll receive a third off for good behavior. Even if you think you have an 80 or 90% chance of being found not guilty, is it worth gambling with such a large chunk of your life on the line? That's the question everyone in Max faces. Clearly, most took the deal. They took the safer option. In my year and a half in Max, only 2 detainees in my pod took their cases to the box. One was LeBron. He was offered a deal for 5 years. He is now serving 15. We all thought he had a good chance of winning. The other reason most of the Max was taking deals was because of COVID. Due to the inability, is COVID okay like that, or do I need to make it all capital? Or leper case. I'm going to leave it like that for now. Due to the inability to have trials safely, most everyone in Max had already been awaiting trial for over a year. Even once the courts opened back up in March of 2021, we were told they'd only be able to hold one county Supreme Court case at a time, meaning most guys would have to wait another 6 months to a year for trial. You tell someone they have to wait another 6 months in closed custody for trial, or they can take a deal and just go home after 6 months. Most guys take the deal. Plus, they would get to do their time in prison after taking the deal. No more being stuck in a cell for 22 hours a day. In prison, you can get a TV in your cell, a radio, a tablet to play games on. You can get a job, a hobby, take carpentry. You can play ping pong, basketball, kickball. You can wear a real pair of shoes and aren't stuck in the same orange uniform all day. You can walk around outside, feel the grass, and bask in the sun shining on your face. After 18 months in close custody, prison sounded pretty amazing. Cooped up so long in close custody. Nope, I said close custody already. Let's change that to max. It's going to sound a lot better. Cooped up in max. Cooped up so long in max. Some guys were taking deals to stay sane. When you consider everything alongside the instant relief a man feels in knowing the foreseeable future of his life, you can't blame guys for making the choices they did. The same choice I had to make. I was offered a deal in November of 2020, after being detained since December of 2019, that if I accepted, would have sent me home to freedom within a week or two. Only problem I had with the deal was I was innocent. Only problem I had with the deal, comma, was I was innocent. How could I plead guilty, be labeled a felon for the rest of my life? Losing my rights to vote, hold a gun, having to be on community custody and check in with the sheriff's office? How could I explain to my friends and family, community, the business community, my family? How could I explain to my friends, the business community, my family, that I didn't do it even though I pled guilty? How could I look my daughter in the eye? Becca, sounds amazing or horrible. You know, if you like pickles and peanut butter, give it a try. Give it a try. There we go. So many notifications are going off right now. I'm like, what is happening? And then I see and I'm like, oh. It's because I posted about my live stream tonight at 7 and everyone is super excited about it. Which is good. That is good. I like when people are excited about what I'm doing. At the same time, my entire life was on the line. I was gambling with close to 15 years. My inability to play with my daughter, go to work, raise a family. I thought I had an airtight defense, but a lot was at stake. Am I just restating what I already said? Kinda. It was all in jeopardy. I thought I had an airtight defense, but a lot was at stake. A lot was at stake. What pushed me to decide to fight was the injustice I felt. I wanted to fight the system I felt was persecuting me unfairly. In my opinion, my county's prosecutor's office and the majority of judges had a better safe than sorry mentality. They'd rather try someone who may have committed the crime than have a possibly dangerous individual walking the streets. This, of course, is not in line with our nation's long-standing motto, innocent until proven guilty. I thought the prosecutors and judges themselves should have to think the evidence shows a significant likelihood that the accused is guilty before bringing charges forward. The charges should certainly be dropped before trial begins if there is a likelihood that the individual is innocent. Charges should not be dependent solely on how likely the prosecutor's office is to get a plea deal or conviction. Alas, that isn't how our system facilitates justice in practice. There is no consideration on the part of the prosecutor on whether or not the person might be innocent. In practice, they prosecute everyone they believe they prosecute everyone they believe they might be able to convict. That's a lot of theys in that sentence. In practice, prosecutors the law attacks anyone In practice, the law attacks anyone they believe they might be able to convict. With plenty of funding, most people taking deals, and, thanks to COVID, a near limitless time someone can await trial, there's no reason for them to not prosecute everyone. There are also little to no consequences for a prosecutor who loses. If they lose, they shrug it off, telling themselves the only reason the defendant won was because they lied. Then they move on to prosecute the next alleged perpetrator. Understand, I'm not saying most defendants should go free. In fact, the majority of people incarcerated are guilty as sin. However, there are those like myself who, in my mind, should have never been prosecuted, who do not have enough evidence against them to charge them with a crime, and because they choose to fight for their freedom, they are punished with longer time in jail, additional charges, and bigger consequences if found guilty. Because I chose to fight for my freedom, I found myself up to my eyeballs in debt. But I was ready to show the community. In the end, and fighting the law was expensive. In the end, the justice system is a market, and fighting the law is expensive. But I was ready to show the community that I wouldn't take this lying down. I wanted to humiliate and make the prosecutor look like the fool she was. And I wanted to make the system rethink the next time they were on the fence about prosecuting a case like mine. I wanted press releases and interviews about my victory. I wanted a trial. One way or another, I was going to finally get out of Max. When I was first arrested, my lawyer told me it'd likely be 6 months before I saw trial. I was prepared for trial and felt ready to go at the 6-month mark. Thanks to COVID, our state and local government suspended. Thanks to COVID, our state and local government suspending all jury trials. Thanks to COVID, our state and local government suspended all jury trials, pushing my date do I want to looking up these dates is going to be really hard. I was arrested in December of 2019. I was ready for trial in May. In June 2020. Thanks to COVID, our state and local government suspending all jury trials, pushing my date back after this I go to thanks to COVID, our state and local government suspended all jury trials. Continued to be pushed back two to 3 months at a time. My trial date continued to be pushed back every 2 months. Again and again and again. For a year, I waited. For a year, I waited. Every time trial was pushed back was another round on the emotional roller coaster. As trial approached, a wave of excitement and nervous stress would crash down on me. A defendant looks forward to his legal troubles being concluded, but the possible life-ruining consequences is enough to drive anyone crazy. The week before trial confirmation is full of second guesses, sleepless work, worry-filled nights, and a lot of prayer. Every day my court date was moved, a mixture of confirmed relief and not having to face the stressful horrors of trial meant the anger of being stuck in close custody with the uncertainty of my future hanging over my head. All of 2019, 2020 passed. And 2021 didn't look a whole lot better. For a year, I waited. Every time trial was pushed back was another round on the emotional roller coaster. As trial approached, a wave of excitement and nervous stress would crash down on me. A defendant looks forward to his legal troubles being concluded, and the possible life-ruining consequences is enough to drive anyone crazy. The week before trial confirmation is full of second guesses, sleepless, worry-filled nights, and a lot of prayer. Every time my court date was moved, a mixture of confirmed relief and not having to face the stressful horrors of trial met the anger of being stuck in close custody with the uncertainty of my future hanging over my head. Trial finally confirmed for May 17th was a blessing and a curse. Every time my court date was moved, a mixture of confirmed relief and not having to face the stressful horrors of trial met the anger of being stuck in close custody with the uncertainty of my future hanging over my head. Whoa, said Mafia. You don't look homeless. You don't look homeless hipster anymore. After 18 months of growth, the jail finally brought someone in to shave some heads. Not being allowed to ask for a fade, I got a 4 on top and a 2 on the sides. The amount of hair that came off my head could have filled a pillow. Finally, I didn't have to put on my unruly black curly hair into a girly ponytail to clean up. After a year of shaggy, terrible hair, I finally didn't look like a dumpster diving homeless degenerate who would ask to bum your last cigarette. I finally felt human again. No more gay ponytail anymore, I exclaimed while admiring myself in the mirror. Now I'm sure to win at trial. Mafia sat up on his bunk. Because of a haircut? I responded without breaking eye contact with the mirror. Of course. Look at me. There are going to be women on that jury. Women with needs. They're going to take one look at my sexy black slim cut suit with my clean dark hair and go, that boy is looking fine. He couldn't have done it. They're going to see my Greek god chiseled chin. Their panties are going to get wet, and I'm going to get their panties are going to be dripping wet, and I'm going to get a not guilty verdict along with a few phone numbers. You're so... Excuse me. When you live in a box with the same person for 9 months, you get to the point where it's okay to make fun of each other. You're rude, but not in a rude way. Huh? I said, turning to look at him. Everything I've read says if the jury wants to fuck you, they'll set you free so they can. Those legal drama romance novels you keep reading are not preparing you for trial. Those legal drama romance novels you keep reading are not preparing you for trial. That's what you think. Thanks to those novels, I'll be sure to hold it together when the surprise bombshell witness charges into the courtroom. I'm not going to have any big emotional outbursts that make me look bad. And take a look at this wink I've been perfecting. This twitch in the eye is gonna make the lady swoon. Like the good Lord says, the wink will set you free. Again, retarded. I was half joking with him, of course. I wasn't going to actually wink at the jury and knew there was a lot of unrealistic drama thrown into those courtroom books. Comma. Still, I had my special spicy deodorant, conditioner, and hair gel waiting for trial to arrive. No matter what anyone says, a man who looks and smells sexy as hell is gonna be found innocent more often than the scary, druggy hobo. My plan for court was to look better than ever. A military man just arrived. A military man had just arrived. He was found guilty. This scared the hell out of me. Even if you have 80% chance of winning, that's still 20% that you lose. Go away in the dark and suffer. Suffer the humiliation, loss of freedom, and loss of my daughter's childhood. That's what's at stake. That's what was at stake. The last being far more precious than the others. He seemed like a good, clean-cut, well-spoken, strong young man. Seemed like a good, clean-cut, well-spoken, strong young man. I guess I'll just have to... I just have to push myself to do better on the stand, be better, and pray harder. Along with reading a lot of courthouse novels, my trial prep consisted of practicing being on the stand with Mafia. Leprechaun Mafia had been helping me prepare for trial. Every day, I gave them my testimony, comma, and every day they'd prosecute me. Leprechaun in particular seemed quite adept at asking me questions designed to trip me up. Day after day, all evening and night, I practiced and they grilled me. I hoped it was enough to prepare me for the real grilling. My testimony hadn't changed, but my words transformed 1,000 times over. Every detail I'd evaluate. Every word I weighed against another. Every detail I evaluated. Every word I weighed against another. The story was the same, but the words to tell the tale had shifted with increasing regularity. I had, after over I had, after 100 hours of speech practice, writing, practicing, and writing again, concreted my testimony to be exact, detailed, yet simple. Still, I was likely to jackhammer the concrete again tomorrow. I had, after over 100 hours of speech practice, writing, practicing, and writing again, concreted my testimony to be exact. It was detailed, yet simple. Still, I was likely to jackhammer the concrete again tomorrow. I was fortunate to have the greatest celly ever. He sat listening to me give my testimony for hours and giving me plenty of feedback. Cross-examination practice was difficult for me. My lawyer instructed me to avoid pitfalls. My lawyer instructed me to avoid pitfalls. My lawyer instructed me that to avoid pitfalls, I should only answer the question asked, use as few words as possible, and answer a simple yes or no whenever able. Whenever possible. Any answer that needed revisiting or additional explanation should be expanded on with my own friendly attorney after the enemy was done with their examination of me. Using few words and not adding additional explanations was counterintuitive to my nature. The part I was good at was keeping a calm, clear head and taking my time. After all, there's no reason to rush, except to feel the final relief of the dreaded ordeal being over with. All this prep with someone close who I could trust was invaluable. But nothing could have fully prepared me for the harsh realities of standing trial. You know you've been detained too long when the food stops tasting like shit. A lot of things had changed since I was first arrested a year and a half ago. None of them for the better. Candy bars were now $1.50. With prices like that, the correctional facility should have to register. It appeared that 2 hours out a day the new norm. There was no talk of giving us back our extra hour out. The CEOs refused to hand out towels except at the beginning and end of our timeout, even though they still gave out other toiletry supplies that were right next to the towels, did not handing us a towel that was right next to the door somehow make their job easier? No. All it did was force us to wait around for towels when our time was up, instead of going straight to the cells. This towel waiting time ate into the next group's timeout. But the worst thing they did was instituting group punishments. If someone had writing on their cell walls, instead of punishing that one person, they'd shut off the TV, tablet, and phones. The devices remained shut off for 15, sometimes 20, 25 minutes until the COs finally came back in to inspect if the writing had been cleaned off properly. If it was still unsatisfactory, then they remained off for another period of time dictated by their reinspection. Then they remained off for another period of time Then they remained off for another 15 or so minutes until the COs gave an additional reinspection. If it was still unsatisfactory, then they remained off. Hang on. But the worst thing they did was instituting group punishments. If someone had writing on their cell walls, instead of punishing that one person, they'd shut off the TV, tablet, and phones. The devices remained shut off for 15, sometimes 20, 25 minutes until the COs finally came back to inspect if the writing had been cleaned off properly. If it was still unsatisfactory, then they remained off for another 15 or so minutes until the COs gave an additional reinspection. Only having 2 hours and losing their time to talk. Only having 2 hours and losing their time to talk. Only having 2 hours and losing this time to talk with our families. Excuse me. Was a big deal. It was no wonder inmates got loud, threatening, and violent towards the one who failed the inspection. Group punishments are dangerous and should be illegal. Detainees will hurt each other for a chance to talk to their family. We're getting a lot of good work done, guys. Good job. Keeping it up. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, up. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. Enjoy the slideshow. If you haven't seen it before, you're going to enjoy it. there's just so much work with writing, and it never ends. There's always more to edit. There's always the question of, could I make this better? And the answer is always yes. You can always edit and make things better. It's knowing when to like stop or take a break that just gets to the point where you have to breathe. You're like, oh, okay. That's right. This is what breathing is supposed to be like. Okay. Every day, a trial confirmation arrives as exciting and full of unbridled anticipation. The night before, I didn't sleep like a child on Christmas Eve. The day trial confirmation arrived, I'd be up early, hair combed, teeth brushed, looking as good as humanly possible in jail. Whew, excuse me. I hoped my hair would impress the judge. Then confirmation didn't confirm. A new trial date was set a month or more in the future, and I returned to my cell, struggling to keep my emotions in check. Like a child who found out Christmas was canceled, I was angry, sad, and turbulent. In my bunk, all I could do was seethe and hold my breath as my mind refused to stop spinning. Like a never-ending Groundhog Day, I learned that this cycle repeats. I no longer got my hopes up. I was resigned to my fate. If I didn't care what happened, then I wouldn't be disappointed. But in my heart, more than anything, I needed to be out by August 14th. August 14th was a family wedding. I'd do just about anything to be at. Anything to attend. Let's unbolden this. Bold, unbold. Okay. My journal entry, dated 7/4/21. Happy Independence Day. Do you know why Lady Justice carries a sword? Because she punishes, cutting deep without mercy. She holds... This was my journal entry, dated 7/4 excuse me, 2021. Happy Independence Day. If a friend ever wants to say that he'd love to slap your face, just respond back kinky. Gets him every time. He just sent back the little emoji with the eyes up, you know. I'm rolling my eyes at you. I'm rolling my eyes at you. Do you know why Lady Justice carries a sword? Because she punishes, cutting deep without mercy. She holds a sword that no shield or armor can protect against. The wounds it causes fester with long-lasting consequences that are slow to heal. She holds up a scale used by the prosecution to weigh if they can prosecute you. Do you have priors? What's your sex, race, standing in the community? Do you have any political ties? Can you afford a private attorney, or are you likely to post bail? Do they think you'll take a deal, plead out for safety, or make them work for it? Will you make the prosecutor look good? She has cloth over her eyes. She is blind to the truth. As we approached trial, my attorney informed me of what it would take to prosecute me. Growing up, I had heard the phrase, beyond a reasonable doubt, 100 times. These are the instructions that were given to the jury. A reasonable doubt is one for which a reason exists and may arise from the evidence or lack of evidence. It is such a doubt as would exist in the mind of a reasonable person after fully, fairly, and carefully considering all of the evidence or lack of evidence. If, from such consideration, you have an abiding belief in the truth of the charge, you are satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt. The part that hung me up was an abiding belief in the truth. A lot of states don't have this added verbiage, but mine did. My lawyer said it was during in court, my attorney oh my gosh, what is it called? Objected to this verbiage, even though it was statewide. He stated that it lessened the requirements for finding no reasonable doubts. However, the statement was, oh my gosh, what is it called? The statement was typical across the entire state, and objecting to it was simply allowing for a possible, and objecting to it was simply ceremonial than actually expecting to come from the objection. However, the statement was standard across the entire state, and objecting to it was ceremonial. Was more ceremonial than actually expecting anything to come from the objection. Little things like legal verbiage here and small court procedures that made life harder on the defense kept me up at night. One thing I couldn't get past was that the prosecution got to talk last during closing arguments. That just didn't seem fair. They were able to bring up things in their closing that we then wouldn't have a chance to address. I felt like the system was stacked against me. At night, I'd pray for hours without sleep. I'd pray for hours. I'd pray for hours. At night, I'd pray for hours. My prayers focused on my attorney's ability to speak, my ability to know when to keep my mouth shut, the judge's ability to be fair to my side, the prosecutor's ability to mess up, and most importantly, the jury's ability to see the truth. After 19 long months in close custody, on July 6, 2021, my trial finally began. It ended on July 15th, 2021. 1.5 days of jury selection, half a day for opening statements, 2 days for prosecution, 1 day for defense, half a day for closing arguments, and finally, 2 half days of jury deliberation. Right here, we'll do single. "10 terrible days of working, worrying, and feeling so sick from stress that I wished I could vomit. But there were some perks to going to trial. The best part was the drive from the jail to the courthouse. Before trial, all the court proceedings had been held virtually over video, but I'd have to be in person for the actual trial. Being walked out from this facility to the transport van was heavenly. I was able to take long, real breaths of air, feel the sun on my face, and enjoy the walk. I moved slowly across the parking lot, but the CEOs didn't seem to mind. I milked their complacency for every second of sunlight I could get. Once we reached the courthouse, I was given my choice of what to wear out of the trial clothes my family had dropped off. I could choose which of my 3 suits to wear, which my dozen undershirts, and what ties to match. I could choose which of my 3 suits to wear, which of my dozen undershirts, and what ties to match. Choosing what I wore was a freedom that felt liberating. Looking at myself standing in a good suit, I almost felt human again. After over 550 days without tying a pair of shoes, I was surprised my muscles remembered how it was done, although I was sure I used to do it faster. Putting my belt on, hearing my heels click against the hard concrete floor as we walked to the elevator, I had more confidence than I'd had it all year. I was in a power suit, and I almost felt equal to the men walking me to my trial. A courtroom is an intimidating place. My life would be decided in this room, and I felt incredibly tiny compared to its magnitude. However, I still took a moment to admire its regal beauty. I hadn't seen or felt wood furniture in a long time. I rubbed my hands across the defense desk I sat at as I waited for the war to begin. It felt smooth and soft. I don't think I would have ever considered wood soft before. Selecting the jury was an interesting process. I talked with my lawyer about who I liked and who I didn't. We tried to get mother-aged women on the jury because, according to my attorney, they tended to look at young men in my age as they would their sons. We went back and forth, selecting and rejecting all kinds of people. One man was dismissed because he was talking about demons making people do things, so no one was ever really guilty. I wanted him on my jury for sure, but the judge threw him out. The judge threw out another man because he had a hearing problem. A woman couldn't help but take care of her kids. A few gentlemen spoke a little too fervently about religion. After a few long talks, we whittled people down and were left with our jury. After a few long speeches, we whittled people down and were left with our jury of 12. I wasn't sure if I liked them. 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 It was hard to read most of the people when they were just sitting there, only answering a few questions with short words. With few words. We had an almost perfect split between male to female and young, old, and middle-aged. As far as I could tell, this jury wasn't going to swing one way or the other. It'd take a day or two to figure out who we should have dismissed from jury duty. Who we should have dismissed during jury selection. Juror number 1 was a woman who clearly wanted to go home. Bored, she rested on her left elbow, watching the trial without interest. She didn't carry a notepad like all the other jurors. My life was on the line, and she couldn't even be bothered to take notes. I wanted to excuse her, but because she was a woman of color, we couldn't. Anti-discrimination laws made it impossible to dismiss people of color if you didn't have enough clear reasoning to the judge on why they shouldn't be there. The men sat and stared. One older man stared at me more than the others. As he looked at me, I couldn't help but wonder what he was thinking. Was he picturing a younger self? A him that could have been in the same chair I'm sitting in? A him that could have been sitting in the same chair I found myself sitting in? Or was he seeing the low life that did him wrong? Was this finally his time to get revenge for a past deed? Was I to suffer the justice he couldn't bring against another man years earlier? Who could say? I wished I could simply talk to him, to speak to like a normal human being to the jury, and maybe be seen as a normal human in return. Words continued to move, change, and be rearranged. The same word, synonyms for the word, and words I'd never have considered using were interchanged in attempts to make the same meaning clear or clearer. The same meaning clearer. Funny enough, their attempts seemed to muddy the waters. Funny enough, the court's attempts seemed to muddy the waters. Beyond a reasonable doubt, that was the key. Innocent until proven guilty. My life rested on those words. They were my life verse, my saving grace, my Jerusalem. I had a crappy 10-point domino in my pocket. 5 dots on one side and 5 on the other. It was by far my favorite domino. The double 5 domino, if the double 6 isn't present, goes first at the start of a game of dominoes. Getting to play the double 5 was the best opening move in my opinion. It got you on the board fast and gave you control of the game. The domino itself was wood, painted black, dented, and chipped to hell. I must have held it at least 100 times in 100 different games of dominoes during my time in jail. But all through the trial, I kept it in my pocket, held it in my hand, and focused on it. It helped center me and give me something to focus on when it would have been easy to drive myself insane with worry. It was my focus as I took the stand. I walked up, heart pounding, heart beating in my ears with every step. I slowly sat down behind the podium. As I was sworn in behind a giant plastic barrier, I removed my mask, letting the masked jury see my real face for the first time. I hated having to wear that mask. I felt like it made me more robotic, less personal. Like the jury would have an easier time convicting me because they didn't have to look at my face and see that I was a real person, that I had a life that they held in their hands. I wished I could see their faces and know that they took these proceedings half as seriously as I did, that they felt the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. With my right hand, I took a slow drink of water. With my left hand, I gripped my domino for comfort, surveying the room one last time, making sure they got a good look at my face. I slowly turned to my lawyer. He opened his mouth, and it began. I laid in my suit, pants, and shirt in a cell. Praying to God and reading a good book. Every minute passed 3 times slower than the one before it. Every minute passes 3 times slower than the one before it when you're waiting to hear if you're going to be free or imprisoned. I laid on that bunk for a day and a half, and it seemed like the entire world had stopped spinning. I replayed my testimony in my head 100 times over, thinking about all the little words I might have said different. I felt like I'd done okay, answered most questions with simple answers, never got angry, stayed calm, and was polite to both my lawyer and the evil hydra of a prosecutor. No matter what I could have said differently, it was all over now, and only the jury could decide if my testimony was all it needed to be. As the deputies came and told me the jury had come to a verdict, my legs felt like heavy lead that had poured through my blood. My entire body moved without the use of my head. I watched myself slowly be escorted into the courtroom. A gust of wind would have knocked me over as I tried my best to find a place standing behind the defense desk as the jury slowly entered and found their seats. I couldn't hear a thing. My vision was tunneled. I concentrated on the man standing before the judge. His lips began to move in slow motion before sound finally came out of his mouth. His lips began to move in slow motion before sound finally traveled past them. As my head tried its best to comprehend the words my ears were hearing, the realization of the verdict hit me harder than any punch I'd ever felt. I hadn't cried a single tear all through my time incarcerated, but standing there, discovering my fate, I wept. Stretch it out. Okay. Conclusion. And we will increase this to a nice little 150. Drinking some water. Drinking some water. Drinking some water. Drinking some water. Okay. Wearing nothing but my shorts, I laid in the grass. It was soft green, and it smelled like freedom. The sun beamed down in my eyes. After 588 days incarcerated, I felt good. I felt alive. I felt like I'd never take life for granted. I felt like I'd never take life for granted. After 588 days in closed custody since my original arrest in December of 2019. After 588 days in closed custody, 588 days in close custody since my original arrest in December of 2019, I felt good. It had been a long time since my original arrest in December of 2019. After 588 days in closed custody, I felt good. I felt alive. I felt like I'd never take life for granted. Everything made me happy. A $5 burger tasted like the greatest thing I'd ever put in my mouth. Sunshine. Sunshine, rain, cloudy hail. The weather didn't matter. Sunshine, rain, clouds, hail. The weather didn't matter. I wanted to be outside enjoying it. Hugs, handshakes, contact with another human was a joy to be had between two people, and not something that was made fun of or thrown in someone's face as a homosexual act. It was July, and a girl in a simple sundress was enough to get me rock hard. Most every single woman's body was now beautiful in my eyes. All things female were to be treasured. I had no idea how much I'd missed soft, feminine touch until I received a long hug. The smell of a woman's hair. The smell of women's hair. The smell of women's hair was now completely and totally appreciated down to my core. Driving slow was as good as driving fast. I was amazed at how quickly my body remembered exactly how to drive, how driving a car was done. I suppose driving vehicles is a lot like riding bikes. With a full tank of gas, I was free to go anywhere I wanted. I could drive to the store, drive to the beach, the mountains, the city, the suburbs. The city or the suburbs. City or the suburbs. Wherever I wanted to go. That kind of freedom felt like a power I wasn't sure how to wield. The world was a bit changed from December of 2019 to August of 2021. I was amazed at the amount of Teslas on the road. It was like COVID hit, and everyone decided we were going to combat it by buying electric cars. I went and visited my buddy who had an office in town. As I walked in, I saw the sign that said I had to wear a mask. In his office, we sat across from each other with a giant plastic divider running down the middle of the desk. At Starbucks, I decided to walk in instead of waiting in the line of cars. There weren't very many people inside, so I figured it wouldn't take too long. As I stood there waiting for my order, they kept putting out coffee that wasn't mine. Then someone from outside would come in and take the coffee away. What I thought was a slow day was a really slammed coffee shop. Everyone was just ordering it on an app. I never experienced anything like it. I had stopped in 2019, but the rest of the world had continued to change. I was excited to adapt and change with it. I'd moved back in with my family on the farm. I was afraid living with them again would feel like a step backwards, but it didn't. I was just thankful for my situation, to be free and not trapped all day in a cell. Holding my cell phone while sitting at my laptop, I was a little overwhelmed. Holding my cell phone while sitting at my laptop was a little overwhelming. With the touch of a button, I could send a message to any of my friends, call people anytime I wanted, or look up anything online. I wasn't stuck with only 3 movies. I had the option to watch anything I wanted. Anything I liked. I wanted or looked up anything online. I wasn't stuck with only 3 movies. I had the option to watch anything I liked. I could walk down the hall and grab a bottle of ketchup, putting as much as I wanted on whatever I was eating. I could go to the bathroom, grab a whole bottle of ketchup, putting as much as I wanted on whatever I was eating, whatever I was choosing to eat. I could go to the bathroom and take as long as I wanted to shit without anyone seeing me, or having to flush all the time out of courtesy. The room I was in, my room, was giant. I could sleep any time I wanted, and it was quiet. I could get a full 8 hours uninterrupted. I could leave my things on the desk and not worry about anyone else coming along and touching them, moving them, or looking through my stuff. I could open up the window and feel a breeze anytime I wanted. I stood barefoot in my room, feeling carpet beneath my soles. It was soft. It was nice. I put on a little music. I could listen to anything I wanted. I had to put on the music, otherwise the room was too quiet to fall asleep. The mattress would take some time to get used to. It felt like I was sleeping on a pile of clouds. They were too soft for me. I slept on the floor, laying there in the middle of the room. I smiled. I had dreamed of this moment for over a year. I'd missed 2 Christmases, 2 birthdays, my daughter's birthdays, the birth of my nephew, and a whole year and a half of living. But I was home now, where I was loved. I was lucky. It could have easily gone the other way. After 588 days, I finally felt safe. Laying on the floor, I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and was content. I'm going to copy that, and let's go over to Twitter. Oh, man. Feels good. Ba-da-ba-boom, ba-ba-boom, bow, ba-da-da-down, down, dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Oh, Twitter, you're being slow today. I need a better internet connection is what I need. The last line of my whip is finally done. The last line of my whip is finally done. And we can tweet. Tweedledee. Rockin' the treetops all day long, rockin' and singin' and flee my song. All the little birdies on hay ball seek, rockin' and movin' and goin' tweet. Rocky Robin, tweet. Oh, Rocky Robin, tweedledee. Well, guys, I have a bit more work that I have to get done before I can continue on with the project. I'm going to put in a bunch of different documents that are from my time incarcerated, and the documents are going to show. I want the documents to do a couple things. One is to show exactly what went on, and that what I'm saying is true, and it's not in any way, shape, or form dramatized. And so that's what I'm going to work on doing right now. But I'm going to need both screens to do that. So I'm going to say goodbye to you all for now and put on the slideshow. It's a wonderful slideshow if you haven't seen it. As always, like, comment, share with friends. And if you love this podcast and you love what I do, make sure that you support on Patreon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.